Good evening, nieces and nephews. Tonight I'm going to be making multigrain bread. Though my recipe normally requires a half of a stick of butter, 4 tablespoons. While yes, I've got enough butter to do that, I'm going to substitute oil. Just straight vegetable oil. Yes, it's an acceptable substitute for butter. So, without further ado, let's get things started. Starting with a cup and a half, although that's more like a cup and 2/3 almost, of milk. Just means we'll probably have to put a little bit more sugar in it, or not sugar, but flour. So to that, I'm putting 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar. Yes, this calls for brown sugar in the mix, not there it is. So we're not using honey, we're not using white sugar, we're just using brown sugar today. I'm going to go ahead and put in my oil now, because I would put in my butter now if it did, because you wanted to add it melted anyway, so that's another reason why using oil is going to be just fine. And give that a few minutes and we'll see if that actually works. Pretty sure it will. It's new enough yeast. So, pretty sure that that's signs that it's going to work. Now, my milk was warm to start with. Might not have been exactly 110 degrees. It was probably a bit cooler than that. Which is why the yeast is being a little slow to activate, but it is activating. So, in the interest of time, because I'm doing this in my bread maker, which will also help proof the yeast. So I added my 1.5 cups, well, 1 2/3 cups of milk, my 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil, or 4 tablespoons of butter if I'd wanted to do that, with my 2 teaspoons of yeast, and as well as the 1/3 cup of brown sugar to the pan. So to that, I am now going to add my dry ingredients. There is 3 tablespoons of wheat gluten, 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and 1 cup of multigrain cereal. Steel cut oat style, things like that. You don't want to use oatmeal. So I'm going to go ahead and add the cereal grain first. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my wheat gluten. And I'm going to add my 3 cups of flour. Hold on, let me plug this in real quick. Now I'm not baking the bread in this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my menu select and take it to dough. Go ahead and hit start. Now I'm going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Now basically all I'm using the bread machine for is to do my mixing, my kneading, and my proofing. I will be taking it out at the end of that, letting it do another rise cycle, or proofing on the top of the oven, and then I'm going to put it in the oven to bake. So, fairly simple. And all I'm doing here is just kind of doing a little bit of scraping away from the sides. It'll actually do that on its own here in a second when it starts to pull it away because it's starting to incorporate more of the flour. Now, because it doesn't knead as vigorously or as strongly as you would be on the board if you were to mix it by hand, that's why you add the extra wheat gluten to it. The other option is to use actual bread flour, because that would also have the wheat gluten already mixed in. Kind of looking like it might be a little wet. Kind of expected that considering I put just a little too much milk in. So we're just going to add just about another tablespoon at most of flour. I'm going to go ahead and add another tablespoon. Some of that's reserved for putting on the board when I turn the bread out. There we go. Now it's starting to tighten up that dough ball. It's definitely sounding its age. Well, I think that's where it ends its kneading. Give it a minute, we'll find out. I'm just over here washing a couple of the dishes. Yeah, I think it's gone ahead and finished up the mixing and kneading cycle, so give me a second to dry my hands. At which point it's going to let the dough rest and rise. So we're going to go ahead and close this down so it can get warm. And then I will be back with you in about an hour and 8 minutes, because there's an hour and 9 left on the timer on the bread maker. So see you in a little while. Welcome back, nieces and nephews. The machine is almost done with its dough proofing cycle. It says about 3 minutes left on the timer. As you look in, the pan is about half full. That's not bad. Obviously, we want more bread. But that's about what one loaf pan really is, if it's an actual bread loaf. But we're going to let it rise again after we take it out of the machine here and put it into an actual loaf pan. So, with the fact that the machine is actually so close, I'm going to go ahead and stop it and pull it out right now. Okay, there we have our board to work with. And we have a bread pan, or loaf pan. So we're going to go ahead and grease it up using a butter wrapper. Some people want to put a little flour into it, some people don't. I'm not going to flour it. I've been doing it without flour in it for years and it's not come out bad. So, going to go ahead though and flour my board. Go ahead and pull it out of the pan. And normally I would have to fish the paddle out, but it actually already came out of the dough ball. So all we're going to do is roll it into a loaf and tuck the ends in. Kind of roll it around in the flour a little bit more, just so it makes it look like you actually did something, if anybody ever says anything. Now we're going to tuck it into the loaf pan, and as you can see, it actually fills that loaf pan fairly well. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to put it over onto the stove on top of my oven, which I've already been preheating to 375. So we're going to give it another hour underneath a cloth, and then we're going to bake it. So see you again in an hour when this is done rising. Welcome back, nieces and nephews. It's now been an hour of rise time for the loaf. So as you can see, it has doubled in size. So, and I might have misspoken earlier, but it's easy now to adjust anyways. You should actually preheat your oven to 400 for this, or at least 375. And I do believe I said 375 earlier anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Now we're going to go ahead and bake this for about 35 minutes until it's nice and brown. So okay, so we'll be back in 35 minutes or so. See you then. Welcome back, nieces and nephews. The bread is now done. At least I'm pretty sure it is. It's been in there about 35 minutes. About 10 minutes into it, I went ahead and turned down the oven to 375. And as you can hear, it's very, very hollow sounding, much like my head. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and come back in about a half hour, and I will pull it out of the pan. So, see you then. Okay, guys, welcome back. As you can see, it just comes right out of the pan there. Still a little bit warm. Not sure I want to put that in the sink yet. The sink might be a little too cold and cause it to break. But there you go. So, give it a little bit of time to cool down, and then we'll cut into it and see how it tastes. So, see you later. Oh, by the way, before I turn it off, don't forget, down below, click that like button, especially if you did like the video, please. Go ahead and click the join or subscribe button and join the tribe. And then click that notification bell and you can get notified when I upload more videos. Down below, you're going to also find a link to a printable, as well as the actual printed recipe. So don't forget to go download it, print it off, put it in your notebook or cards for your recipes. Bon appetit, bonne soirée.